Good afternoon and welcome to today's live as part of BETA's Summer of Safety. This is our campaign running from June to September to spread the word about safety in all aspects. BETA's most commonly related to body protectors and hats and other pieces of PPE, but safety is so much wider than that. So this summer we're trying to raise awareness of lots of different aspects of safety to make certain that we're all out riding safely and keeping ourselves and our horses safe. Today's live, we're going to be talking about the Mark Davies Injured Riders Fund. We've been working with the fund for over 20 years and they are a member of BETA. And so today I'm really pleased to welcome Cathryn Godfrey, who is a trustee of 10 years of the fund. The Mark Davies Injured Riders Fund provides help to those injured by horses where no other help is available. And it does so much good work that I think it's important that you all know about it and really learn how it can help you when you need it the most. Cathryn, as well as being a trustee, her day job is a lawyer, and she helps those seriously injured and has done so for the last 20 years, mainly in rehabilitation and claims process. She herself has a very keen interest in road safety, regularly speaks with the BHS, and has had the honour of being awarded the Sefton Award for her contribution to safety. So I'd like to bring Cathryn in and welcome her. Hi, Cathryn.
Hi, Claire.
Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Is it as warm with you as it is with me?
It is now, yes. It started off a bit colder today, but the heat's ramped up now. So, yeah, we can't complain.
No, definitely not. Complaining is not allowed. So we're talking about the Mark Davies Injured Riders Fund. You've been a trustee for 10 years. How did you get involved with the fund?
My involvement with the charity started after I'd had an accident on one of my horses myself. We were competing at a show. We'd been placed in the class. We were doing the lap of honour, and he got a little bit exuberant, bucked, and I came off. He was platted up, show shine, nothing to grab onto, and landed on the floor, as we've all done. Unfortunately, the fall fractured a few vertebrae on that occasion, so ended up in hospital myself. I'm fortunate, nothing apart from aches and pains, still fully mobile, but it got me thinking about what would I have done if I hadn't made the recovery I had, and doing the day job and helping those that have been injured and are less fortunate. I had a good understanding of issues with wheelchairs, access to property, employment, driving, etc. And I realised how stuck I would be if my prognosis hadn't been so good. I came across the charity while I was doing some research, and asked if I could get involved and help. Started very much in a volunteering role, and was then asked to join as a trustee.
Oh, that's
but
brilliant.
Thankfully, I haven't needed to call upon the charity for any help. So
Thank goodness. I mean, accidents do make you think. I had one last year where I had actually a very similar broken fractured vertebrae, and it does suddenly make you think how vulnerable you are and when you might need help. Who actually set up the charity?
The charity was set up initially by Jane Davies and her husband. Sadly, 33 years ago this September, their son Mark died while competing at Burley Horse Trials. I didn't know the family at the time, but I understand it was a freak accident. And Jane and Michael sat back after that, and whilst I'd looked at things and decided to set up the charity to help those who, with accidents that unfortunately happen with horses, that was a charity in place to help those that needed it and finding themselves in those circumstances.
Because we know there are a lot of racing related charities for injured jockeys, but really what the charity does is really target any rider. Is that right?
It is, yes. We will, well, not just riders, anyone who is injured in a horse-related incident, if I can call it that. So they could be leading a pony, they could be spectating at a show. The criteria for us is injured by a horse, and it's open to anyone to ask for help and assistance. We tend not to help the professional riders and those involved in the racing industry, because there is other help available for them through the Injured Jockeys Fund and other related charities. So our criteria is where injured by a horse, where there's no other help available.
See, I always thought it was riders, so it's really interesting to hear that other people who have an accident involving a horse, because we all know that actually, and I know having seen some statistics, that more accidents happen on the ground than actually happen coming out of the saddle. So I think that's really important to understand. And how many people then have you helped over the 33 years of the charity?
Putting an exact figure on it is difficult, because the help that we provide isn't just financial help. We take lots of calls. Many individuals want someone to talk to, someone to run ideas past, and also to try and put together an action plan for themselves. It's not always asking for money from the charity. So it's very difficult to put a specific number on it, but we do, on average, 100 plus calls a year. Not all of those will result, as I say, in financial payments. Sometimes we can put people in touch with benefits advisors, or often people want someone who's been through a similar process, similar injury, to talk about the recovery and where they've got to. And if there's other charities that will be able to assist them as well, that we will signpost them to make sure that they're getting the help that they need, in the best way possible. So the exact numbers are difficult to say, but it's thousands over the years, working on an average of 100 to 150 a year.
Because I think it's interesting, you say it's not just money, it's that chance to have a conversation. And I think for a lot of people, they think the organisation's a large one. Now, I know it's not. How many people are actually involved? Because you do an amazing amount of work with, I'm sure, not that many people.
No, there's very few of us. There's the sorry, I get my words out. There's the 4 trustees. And we, in a lot of ways, are in the background dealing with the things that we need to do to keep the charity running. I need to give a massive shout out to Rosemary Lang, who is, I know that you know her, Claire. She's sort of the mainstay of the charity, and is everybody's first point of call when they get in touch for help and advice. A second person to give a shout out to, if that's okay, is Martha. Who works very closely with Rosemary, and I can see you smiling. You know Martha as well, and Martha is really one of our main reps, who, if I can call her that, who takes the inquiries forward and does the investigations and gives a lot of the advice. There's others sort of in the background who are able to help when Martha can't. And then, there's myself and the other trustees that we talk through things with Rosemary and Martha a lot. But that's it, really. We are a very small charity.
And you also have quite a few, I think you call them vice presidents, so riders who are supporters in the background as well. Because I know I've been speaking to the Stockdales about doing one of these with them as well.
Yeah, no, we do. Zara Tyndall's our main sort of lead on the vice presidents, and then there's others as well. We've got Jay, we've got sorry, I'm losing things now. We've got Joe Stockdale, Nina Barber, just to mention a few of them. Their help is really, really appreciated. They're there to help support us with when we're doing fundraising, or if we've got safety messages to get out, which as a charity we try to do as well, because whilst we're there to help, prevention is better than cure. And it's great being able to call on them for their support and assistance, which they gladly give.
And what sort of issues, I know when people have accidents, there are different issues, but I know we've talked about the role of public liability insurance and how is that important and why is it important, and what issues you see most commonly occurring when you're dealing with accidents?
Moving aside from the emotional part of the accidents and what the injured person and often the horse owner or the horse rider, if it's not them that injured, are going through, it's looking at the practical side of things. And I see this both from my day job, but also from the charity's perspective, because we will want to look at what are the helps available to that injured person when they get in touch. And we'll check whether they've got any personal accident insurance, whether that might help them with funds in the interim. And unfortunately, the personal accident insurance is quite limited. The other issue that we often have to talk about is whether there's any insurance on the horse, really, which is the public liability insurance, which can be there to assist the horse owner if the horse has caused injury or damage to someone else. Very often we see that that's not in place, and that sometimes leads to the charity having to make payments. The issue for me with the public liability insurance is, as a horse owner myself for many years, owning dogs now that I'm trying to train, they're quite young, but we all know horses and dogs are unpredictable. For me, I look at the public liability insurance as peace of mind. So if something does go wrong, it's there in the background. It would take a lot of the stress away from knowing that my horse had injured somebody else, and at least that there's insurance in the background that may be able to assist, in terms of helping that injured person. It does come down to fault, and I don't want to give a long law lecture now, but the public liability insurance will only pay out if the horse owner or keeper is liable for the injuries caused. Now, when we look at that, as a layperson, you would often think, well, it's not my fault that the horse broke loose and ran off and trampled someone in the warm-up arena. Unfortunately, the law says in many circumstances it is. And it's a difficult concept, really, to get your head around, but there are certain circumstances where if the horse causes injury, the owner or the keeper are strictly liable, even if there's nothing they could have done to prevent it. This is where the insurance kicks in. I don't know whether it'd be helpful to give you some examples of incidents where it does kick in. Every individual circumstance has to be looked at on the facts, but the examples I can think of is on recent ones. I mean, that one I've just mentioned, horse breaking loose from the lorry, getting into the warm-up arena, and back hoof coming out and striking someone in the standing in the warm-up arena in the head, causing serious injury. The other situations are loose horses on the road. I mean, you don't have to be riding at the time that they cause a problem. So if they've broken out of the field, or you've fallen off 2 miles away and the horse is trying to get home, and it causes a collision, then again that owner is going to find themselves responsible. Other situations as well, just moving away from people being injured. And this, I got caught by this. I thought my horse was tied up at the stable. He managed to undo his knot and broke loose. Unfortunately, the tractor at the same time slammed something down on the ground, so he got a fright and fled. Really, he was fleeing. In doing so, he managed to take wing mirrors off 4 cars that were all parked nicely in a line, which were my fellow livery yard owners. Which thankfully my horse was okay, but it ran into several £1,000s worth of damage. So rather than having to pay it out myself, I had the insurance in place and explained to them what had happened, and they processed the claims for me. So it's good to have it there in the background.
Because I know there was a case, and I think this is what's at case history several years ago, somebody let horses out of a field. At the Muhavidi case, they let horses out of the field and the horses then caused damage. If there's malicious intent, so if it's, or is it just you own the horses, it's your fault, regardless of if somebody else left the gate open or opened the gate?
Again, it's very difficult to talk broad brush because it does depend on the individual circumstances. And I'm very well aware of the case. Lawyers have good points and bad points about that case. It's very hard, really, just to give a simple answer to that. What I would say is, in those circumstances, you should always report it to your insurer and let them do the investigations. The things that might come into account is it the first time somebody's opened the gate, either maliciously or if you've got walkers with a right of way through the field and have left the gate open? Is it the first time it's happened? Is it something that you as the horse owner are aware is happening repetitively? Was there anything that you could do to stop it happening? There's all sorts of side issues that would come into play as to whether that there would be responsibility there.
And this was, I'm just curious, if you had an accident with your horse and the horse has caused you damage, would your public liability cover you for that damage or not?
No, it wouldn't. It's what we call third-party insurance, so it's injury to others.
Right.
No, it wouldn't help you in that situation. There, you'd be falling back on your if you've got personal accident insurance and whether it covers you in that situation. If you're going to be off work for a while, you may find that if you have insurance to cover your mortgage if you're not working, or other forms of insurance, it's worth looking to see if they would help. But no, public liability wouldn't help in that situation. And just going back to my own accident, it was knowing what I may have needed if I hadn't have recovered that wouldn't have been available, because it was my horse. It was me that chose to ride him and fall off. Or perhaps not choose to fall off, but got me involved with the charity, because that is exactly the situation where we're there to help if we can.
And if you have an accident and the horse, and you're injured by another horse, and that horse's owner does not have public liability, where does that leave you?
There's 2 options, really. I mean, with my lawyer head on, and what I would be saying to that injured person is ultimately, you may not be able to do anything, because even if you've got a successful claim, there's unlikely to be any payout towards the cost of rehabilitation and cost of treatment and the ultimate final compensation. But what I would have to do my job properly is check out the assets of the horse owner. And getting into difficult territory here. It's uncomfortable. But, to make sure that I was advising the injured person properly, seeing if there's any assets of the horse owner that could be freed up or possibly utilised, to assist with the claim at the end of the day. But so much of the claim is the journey of recovery and getting that person back to as good a life, or, the life that they had before the accident. And, the treatment, the NHS do a fantastic job, but there's other options and, more intensive treatment available. And, a lot of the cost of a claim is the rehabilitation. It comes back to me that for me, the public liability is peace of mind. If my horse caused that injury and I didn't have that insurance there, would I then be faced with the uncertainty of someone looking to see if I could contribute personally, which I would want to do in those circumstances. But most of us, including myself, we just haven't got the financial means to do it.
Right, so I can see why it's so important. And in terms of the help the charity gives, do you assist at the start and also throughout the rehabilitation? So somebody could have get through the accident, the immediate recovery, but need help later down the line. So is that the sort of thing you'd look at doing as well?
We will look at it. Anyone who contacts us wanting help, full details will be taken, so that we can advise whether we're able to assist or not. A lot of the time, it depends on when someone gets in touch. They might be a year or two into their rehabilitation. They've got everything that they can get so far. At that stage, it might be help with benefits advice if they're not making the full recovery. They may have moved into an adapted home, depending on the injury. And, occasionally we're asked to provide funds or buy equipment for the home. Sometimes it can be simple things like a new dishwasher or, a profile, contributing towards a profile raising bed if it's not available, elsewhere through the statutory assessments and such like. And at that stage, it's often wanting second opinions from doctors to see if there's anything else that can be done, or physiotherapy. So, we will assist with funds where we need to and where the charity can. But even at that stage, we would be looking to sort of signpost or support someone in getting that second opinion elsewhere and making sure that everyone knows, that they're entitled, and and that they've approached all organisations that will provide equipment and such like to them before we step in and provide the money. But it's still a very important role for us.
I'd say that's almost as important. I think a lot of people think of charities as giving money, but I think a lot of people aren't aware of that facilitation role you can play and the advice and just moral support you can offer as well. Yeah.
We do. The moral support, I know Rosemary and Martha and I have done myself. I've spent a lot of time just talking through things, with the injured person, and unfortunately as well, where there's been a death, there's often very little we can do sort of other than be there to listen, really. But sometimes that's what's needed at that time, or just a checklist of what needs doing and what's likely to happen in those circumstances, just to try and help and support, the family or the injured person with what they're going through.
I think that's so important. So if somebody does find themselves in a position where they want to ask for help, how do they go about doing it?
They need to get in touch with Rosemary. I don't know whether it's appropriate to give a mobile number out now, but what I would say is all contact details are on our website, which is www.mdirf.co.uk.
Yeah, I'll post that up when we post the video up. I'll put the link on, and then people can go to the page and then they can find out how to contact you and Rosemary's number, who always answers the phone when I call her.
Absolutely, and there's email addresses on there as well. So it's probably easier to signpost there. And what I would say on that as well is that if anyone listening today would like to make a donation or to talk about doing some fundraising, I know things are difficult at the moment in the current climate, but again, all the details are on the website to do that as well.
Yeah, I think that's really key, because I know you have been impacted as a charity as much as so many other charities have over the last year, because it has been difficult, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Thankfully, with being a small charity with small overheads, it's been easier to weather the storm, if I can put it that way, because we haven't got lots of outgoings every month. But again, all of our funds available to help people are from donations, and if the donations aren't coming in, it's a limited pot. So yeah, and any help or support is always greatly received.
And do you also like having volunteers? Are people, if they aren't able to contribute money, are they also able to contribute their time?
Absolutely. As I say, that's how I first got involved with the charity. We do I'd have stands at Burley, Windsor Horse Show and Hickstead, and often looking for anyone that can come and help out on the stands, really. They do get busy, and even a couple of hours on one of the days, it just helps to relieve the pressure on Rosemary and Martha, and sometimes myself. And there's other ways people can volunteer as well. We have help with the website, we have help with our leaflets, and or sometimes stock to sell on the stands. It's there's lots of ways to help, even without having to make a financial donation.
No, I think that's key. I mean, I think it is truly amazing what the charity has achieved over the last years with the resources they've got. And I know you're planning some fundraising events in the future, so I'd ask everybody to keep an eye out, contribute when you can, support the work, and keep that memory of the importance of public liability in their mind. I know, I'm afraid I'm going to go and check mine to make certain that I do have it, because you assume quite often that you do through various memberships, but it's always important to check.
It is, and I know I'm not trying to frighten anyone. For me, it's something we talk about at the British Horse Society's Road Safety Evenings. It's there as peace of mind. You need it in place before something happens. British Horse Society, it's included in their gold membership. BSJA, I believe, still include it. There's one with Harry Hall, as well as it's insurance that's often included with your other equine insurance. So for the loss of the horse, etc., vets fees. But it's worth checking the level of cover as well, and just making sure that you're comfortable with it. As I say, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, is there a minimum level of cover that you would recommend?
I've given this point some thought, because I thought it might come up, Claire. It's very difficult for me to give sort of a minimum level recommendation. I'm a lawyer, not someone who advises on insurance products. I would always say, depending on your financial circumstances and what the cover will cost, look to get the maximum cover possible. It's the same as you do. I would approach it the same way as you do for any other insurance you've got. You get different levels of car insurance, house contents insurance, travel insurance, etc. And it's looking at what you can comfortably afford against what that level of protection will be. There's some public liability policies out there which will give £10 million worth of cover, which sounds like a lot of money. But if your horse or other animal has injured a young child or someone in their late teens with a serious head injury that's going to need help and assistance for the rest of their life, then unfortunately 24/7 live-in care, £10 million along with other aspects is likely to be needed, if not more. But, you know, hopefully you're never going to need to use it. Injuries are often less significant than that. And policies do offer, I've not seen any under £1 million, but they tend to be staged from there. But again, you know, speak to your insurance broker or speak to your insurance company and just check what offers there and have a chat to them.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to be aware that it's not just the now, it's the future you're covering as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Cathryn. I think that's been really useful, really interesting. I didn't realise all of the aspects of the charity, and so that's been, I think, really helpful to help people understand the importance and the significance of the work you do. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure, and really appreciate the opportunity to raise awareness of the charity. It's, you know, we are a small charity. We're there to help people, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about it.
No, it's great to be able to raise those awareness. Thank you all, everyone, and catch you next time.